The first reason why the Sacramento Kings could very well be a top 5 team in the Western Conference next season is because of the fit of DeMar DeRozan. In the ongoing arms race in the Western Conference, the Kings have slipped behind the curve. From making the postseason in 2023, and if it wasn't for a 50-point masterclass from Stephen Curry, they probably would have won that series, to now missing the playoffs completely, along with the improvement of the other Western Conference contenders, the Kings had to make a move to stay relevant. And they have made that move, acquiring DeMar DeRozan in a sign and trade with the Chicago Bulls, only having to give up Harrison Barnes, Chris Duarte, and 2 second-round picks. With Fox and Sabonis scoring in the paint and outside shooters like Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter, the Kings were missing that on-ball mid-range threat. DeMar DeRozan will be that guy for the Kings. DeRozan is incredibly skilled in the mid-range, making over 43% last season. However, with the Bulls' lack of floor spacing, these numbers are low for DeMar, as last time he had sufficient floor spacing in 2022, he made 46% of his shots in the mid-range. In the 2022 season, the Bulls were great, as before the Lonzo Ball injury, they were actually the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and DeRozan was a huge factor in their success, putting up 27, 5, and 5 on an efficient 50% shooting. Last season, when the Kings lost Monk and Huerter, their offense became a lot slower, and as a result, worse. Fox, Sabonis, and Murray weren't able to generate the consistent offense once their possessions slowed down, forcing De'Aaron Fox to take tougher shots. And once Malik Monk was injured, there wasn't a real secondary scorer on the floor. Sabonis, as we'll get into more deeply later, is a great playmaker for his position, but isn't able to generate consistent offense for himself. Keegan Murray is very limited at this stage of his career, either getting shots by attacking the closeout or hitting catch-and-shoot triples. This is where DeMar DeRozan will make the biggest difference for the Sacramento Kings. With his well-known ability to generate offense out of isolation and in the mid-range, he'll be able to keep the scoreboard moving even when the games slow down. With a smaller matchup, DeRozan will often post him up, using his size and strength to get to a fall-away jumper or right to the cup. When he's playing against a bigger matchup, he'll face them up, creating enough separation with his handles to either get a step back, a driving lane, or a fadeaway. On just how good of a fit DeMar is in Sacramento, it's admittedly not a perfect fit, but it's not horrible either. DeRozan is super durable, actually leading the NBA in total minutes played last season. And while playing all these extra minutes, he also averaged a career low in turnovers per game. As for his perceived poor three-point shooting, DeMar shot 33% on 3 attempts per game in 2024, showing that he is willing to shoot it. This, paired with his ability to generate offense all by himself, will take some much-needed pressure off of guys like Monk, Fox, and Sabonis to deliver offense every single time down the floor. Here, with a big switched on, he faces up and knocks it down. Then, when he's matched up against an ideal opponent with a wing, he first tries the jab step, and once that doesn't work, he gets right back to the post-up, using a step-through to create enough separation to bank it home. DeMar DeRozan has a seemingly endless bag of tricks when it comes to scoring in the mid-range, as he genuinely might be the greatest mid-range scorer of NBA history. Here, with Desmond Bane playing good defense, it simply doesn't matter. He's also one of the game's greatest tough shot makers, as here Naz Reid doesn't fall for the fake, but DeMar will take the shot anyway. His unbelievable shot making will be perfect for the Kings once the game slowed down come April and May. Here he takes Barrett to school with a bump and some perfect footwork, drawing the foul and one. Here, with Harrison Barnes draped all over him, he still knocks it down. I can't even begin to explain to you just how important this will be for the Kings offense next season. But it's not just his skill that makes DeMar so effective, but it's the clutch shooting also. Teaming up with De'Aaron Fox, the Kings arguably have the 2 most clutch players in basketball right now. Considering his age, De'Aaron Fox is not afraid of taking big-time shots, as here with seconds left in a tied game, he dribbles to midcourt and sends the Magic home. Then against DeMar's Bulls, he pulls up over 2 defenders and knocks it down. Even if he doesn't get the ball, he can still make a clutch play, here parachuting in for a putback slam. Now with the addition of DeRozan, there'll be 2 guys to go to in the clutch for the Sacramento Kings. Here in an overtime game against the Clippers, DeMar blows right by Nicholas Batum for the slam. And then here down 1 against Atlanta, he spins through 2 defenders to draw the foul and 1. And when we talk about clutch DeMar DeRozan plays, you can't look past his back-to-back game winners. Here on December 31st, he pulled up on a one-legged triple against the Pacers and nailed it. Then only a day later on January 1st, he loses Kispert and makes this shot over Bradley Beal. Down the stretch of games is where this Kings team will feel the most comfortable, with 2 big-time performers. The second reason why the Kings will be much better next season is because of their coaching adjustments. Back in the 2022 season under Luke Walton, the Kings didn't have a clear offensive vision. But once they fired head coach Luke Walton and brought in Mike Brown, along with trading for Domantas Sabonis and playing a pace and space offense, things turned around quickly for Sacramento. When the Kings hired Mike Brown, they went from the 25th worst offense in the league under Luke Walton in 2022 to the number 1 offense the following season. They took parts of the Golden State motion, some of Mike D'Antoni's 7 seconds or less Suns, and a lot of what the Nuggets do with Jokic to create a pace and space system that led them to the best offense in the league and the 3rd seed in the Western Conference after only one off-season. A significant adjustment that Mike Brown had to make to this Kings offense was to give it a clear focal point, and that was to put the ball in the hands of Domantas Sabonis. Even though De'Aaron Fox is clearly the most talented scoring option the Kings have, it's Sabonis that often runs the team's offense. Like what the Joker does in Denver, Sabonis will often be the guy with the ball making all the decisions. Here in transition, he fakes the pass back to Monk and instead finds Fox open for 3. Then, after a pick and roll, Fox again diverts to Sabonis, who finds the cutting Murray. Then here, Sabonis looks more like a point guard than a center, as he brings the ball up and then masterfully finds Herter cutting to the basket. He also does the classic big man stuff too, here setting a screen for Monk, allowing him to get all the way to the rim for 2. However, in year 1, Mike Brown was unable to put forward a better defensive effort, still ranking 25th worst in the league. After a slow start to the 2024 season, things would pick up for the Kings in November, but once Monk and Herter were sidelined with injuries, the team was forced to play the defensive-minded guys like Keon Ellis and Davion Mitchell. After these lineup changes, the Kings defense saw an almost unbelievable improvement. Over the months of March and April, the Kings had the 4th best defense in the NBA, holding opponents to only 111 points per game, down from the near 120 points a game they were giving up beforehand. For the first time, showing that they aren't just limited to dominating teams with their offensive prowess. With Fox, Ellis, and Murray all being more than capable defenders, the Kings could have a very solid defense next season. Now, I'm not suggesting that Sacramento will have an elite defense by any means, as the backcourt of Keon Ellis and De'Aaron Fox weren't able to battle with bigger guards or forwards. And now without Harrison Barnes, that load will likely fall to Murray and DeRozan, which is where this team might run into some issues. However, against your typical guards, Fox and Ellis are great defenders. And we saw this in the play-in game against Golden State, where Ellis held Stephen Curry to 22 points on 8 of 16 shooting in a 118-94 win. When you're just talking about the defensive improvement, you'd think that this team got dramatically better than they were at the start of the season. However, that was simply not the case, as when the Kings rolled out these defensive lineups, the offense was prone to being bottled up. Within these lineups, there was a lot less ball handling and spacing, making it much harder to create nearly as many advantages as they were beforehand. Again, this is where DeMar steps in perfectly, potentially giving the Kings the best of both worlds, as there's a pretty good chance that the Kings will have an above-average offense and defense in the 2025 season. The third reason why the Kings will be much better next season is because of the improvements De'Aaron Fox has made to his game. Over his first 5 seasons in the league, Fox was unable to be an effective 3-point shooter, only making 32% from deep on 3.5 attempts per game. This in turn made his game very one-dimensional, as the defense knew that he wanted to get downhill to the basket every time, allowing defenses to sag off of him, which made him a bit ball dominant. But over the last 2 seasons, and especially in 2024, Fox has been much better, making 30% of his threes on more than 6 attempts per game, with a lot of these coming off the catch, which has given guys like Monk, Herter, and Murray more space to operate and an option to kick it back out if the defense collapses. But it wasn't just off the catch that Fox was making these threes, but also off the dribble. Here, Fox sizes up Taurean Prince, and with a nice hesitation, he gets enough room to make this shot. His pull-ups look so effortless, as here he just strolls into this triple. It's not just the pull-up though, as he also has a nice step back, here creating the separation to knock it down. Here against Victor Wembanyama, he has to use a hesitation and a step back to create enough separation, and once he does, he connects on the triple. Then against his former teammate Buddy Hield, he notices that Hield is playing him far too low, giving up a pull-up 3, which he takes. However, the reason Buddy Hield was so far back was because of plays like these. Here, he uses the Sabonis screen to get deep into the paint, then making a tough fall-away floater plus the foul and 1. Here, Wiggins plays the 3 and gets beat off the dribble for 2. This is why the pull-up 3 is so effective for Fox, as defenders are afraid that he's going to do something like this, completely losing everybody for an easy 2. Here, he again beats Wiggins off the dribble, which gives him a head of steam, able to draw the foul and 1. Here, Chris Paul bites on the pump fake, allowing Fox to get airborne for this tough finish. He doesn't have Ja Morant or Anthony Edwards' athleticism, but he's still able to make these incredibly tough finishes. Here, against the best paint defender in the league, he fakes AD out of his shoes and then puts it home. Then again, first he beats Hachimura off the dribble, and then he challenges Davis at the rim and is successful. There's not many players in the NBA that can challenge Anthony Davis at the rim and get away with with it. But Fox is one of those guys. With the new additions and the bench pieces that the Kings still have, they might present themselves as challengers to the other Western Conference contenders, such as the Nuggets, Thunder, and Wolves. But what do you think? Will this Kings team take another step in the right direction, or will the DeRozan experiment not go to plan? Let me know in the comments below.